Hello and a warm welcome to the Trunks of the Future channel. It's been approximately 5 years, or rather 5.5 years, since the start of 2016. During this time, I've been closely observing various behaviors on the internet, and I've been learning from a variety of channels and materials within this sphere of men. I've also been keenly observing the female psyche. In summary, after much thought, I decided to start this channel to provide a brief presentation. The nickname I chose, Future Trunks, is quite emblematic. It's not about giving a dividend or anything of that sort. He's simply one of many people out there, whether they are those who maintain a YouTube channel or those who engage with comments and views, who have noticed that the dynamics of women's relationships and society as a whole have shifted significantly over the last decade. This is particularly true with the rise of Instagram. So the first topic I want to discuss in this video is about Instagram and its impact on women. Many of the inspirations that I subscribe to, I diligently follow channels such as Dom Sandro, Attitude Alpha, and Bruno's Social Arts. There's also Raycon, the great master Raycon, right? Although he is now on an alternative platform, a lot of his material is still available here on YouTube. Additionally, there are junior masters, Raynan from Leidos Homins, and others who I might not recall at the moment, but they are all doing an excellent job. Those I've mentioned and others inspired me to create this channel, along with my observations and talks with friends and women. Observing society over recent years since 2016, I think we've all had a matrix awakening. We learn that what women say often doesn't match what they truly like in practice, right? Anyway, right? In this Ranhalita, if you haven't read it yet, in this Ranhalita, in case you stopped watching the video, which I parachuted into here, I suggest that you read it, right? It's essential material for those who are waking up, right? And it was written between 2005 and 2008, before the boom of social networks, smartphones, and everything else. So since 2016, I've been on the red pill, so to speak. Regarding Instagram, which will be the focus of the first video, I've noticed many men discussing the current situation's prism, as well as some women, including those who are more mainstream and such, who discuss social networks. Obviously, they will never address the true reason in the media, because the media is entirely feminist and everyone knows that. It's not news to anyone. But social networks are not the same, okay? As much as there's been an increase, there's been a gradual process, so to speak, of MSN, Mirk, and CQ later on, which were actually messengers, right? It wasn't even Square as a social network, but in terms of the timeline on the internet, the interactions on the internet, Mirk, CQ, MSN or MSN Orkut, right, which was the famous MSN Orkut duo, right? Then came Facebook, which was very strong here in Brazil, and after the movie, the social network caught on and Orkut began to fall in level, and today, ironically, almost everyone misses Orkut, which at the time was despised. Then Facebook had a boom there, and then came Instagram. Even though there's a huge difference between Orkut and Facebook, I still don't think Facebook was a tool in terms of women that ruined society. Facebook was much more political. It divided a lot of society, especially in those elections of 2014, Dilma Anicio. Many friends and family members fought over there. Brazilians started wanting to talk politics about everything. And when this political bickering began, women sort of left the social network, and young people also exited the scene. Nowadays, Facebook, although it remains a social network with plenty of users, has an older audience even here in Brazil. It's an audience that's older, people who are still deeply involved in politics, discussing Bolsonaro, opposing Bolsonaro, talking about patriots, and various other topics. Anyway, my channel, well, the focus here isn't really on politics. It's going to be about the bubble that was created during those 20 years, right? The bubble that was formed in the recent years. I'll discuss a lot about Instagram, about the female psyche, and about the mentality of women, as well as how alphas think, right? What I've observed in that context. So the focus of my channel isn't really the political issue, okay? I believe that this topic of bills and everything else, well, I think there are more qualified people addressing that. So my focus is more on how Instagram has destroyed women. I already have more or less 35 to 40 sub themes to talk about, right? There are a lot of nuances out there, right? About female humor, right? About men not wanting to date anymore. In short, there are going to be themes that will be posted throughout the channel as the channel grows. But now for a general overview of what this change from Facebook to Instagram was like, which usually happened a lot because Instagram didn't come about as an app. Disrupting society, it doesn't. To make people narcissistic and obsessed with likes. 12, it began as a minimalist photo application. Initially, it was exclusive to iOS, but later expanded to Android, gaining more popularity. I don't think Instagram was originally designed to manipulate the masses as it does now. It evolved into that role, in my observation. When it introduced stories features, Instagram became a tool that filled a significant gap, a vacuum of sorts in that space. We refer to them as tactical agents. In the psychological warfare, in the cultural warfare, which would be bloggers, which would be digital influencers, which would be these digital marketing people, in short, these people who have emerged there that we call cattlemen, and they have their cattlemen who follow them faithfully. And because of this migration from Facebook to Instagram, you had women experiencing a completely new world, a world in which it was the first social network in which there was really, before with Orkut and Facebook, famous people rarely used it, and there was little interaction with ordinary people. Women accessed a world similar to what pornography was for men in the early 2000s. I'm planning a video on this topic. Instagram might be considered women's version of porn, but let's delve into it a bit more. The dopamine released in women due to Instagram is significant, right? Think about it. Today you can take a girl from a small town or a girl from the suburbs, just an average girl, right? She uploads a picture and can easily receive 1 to 2 to 0 likes, right? And these likes will come, even though most of them will be from men of quite low value, men she wouldn't even consider when she reaches 50, right? This is another subject that I'm going to talk about, which is women of the 90s are not going to accept these horse-saving captains that the women of the 80s and 70s accepted, but that's a subject for another time. So, generally speaking, Instagram has inflated the level of women to Dantesque levels, something unprecedented in humanity, right? So women's dopamine receptors have been completely damaged, right? Today, a girl might get a like from a CIA footballer, a wealthy heir, a famous singer, or an actor. This overloads their brains, similar to how men's brains were overwhelmed by seeing many naked women at once in pornography. There's no neurotransmitter for that, right? But anyway, there's the question that if you stop and everything, the brain regenerates. That's a fact. There's brain neuroplasticity, right? But making an analogy, there would only be a reversal of this scenario if everyone stopped using Instagram, especially women. That's a utopia. Obviously, it's not going to happen, but the bubble has been created. The Instagram bubble was created, and what you see today is a madhouse inside a cell phone screen. Girls who really think they're influencing society, bloggers who want to talk about more complex subjects than the greatest. Human minds took centuries to explain properly, such as Plato, Aristotle, Socrates, St. Augustine, St. Thomas Aquinas. More modern boys out there, Nietzsche, Schopenhauer, you name it, you've had lots and lots of philosophers who have tried to explain love, compassion, selfishness, the difference between sensory intelligence and reasoning. These people want to speak out and set rules, and they're succeeding due to the space created by the shift from Facebook to Instagram. Nowadays, there are numerous individuals who take on the role of societal drivers and influencers. Women in particular have embraced this trend, wouldn't you agree? They dove into it head first, and the outcome is evident. Now, let's rewind a little to that girl who was attractive. Back in the 90s, she would only be recognized in her own town or perhaps the neighboring town if she attended parties and such. Fast forward to the 2000s with the internet, you had platforms like Orkut and MSN, which gave her a bit of micro fame, but it remained quite restricted. Initially, Orkut only let you upload 12 photos, and there was a cap on the number of friends you could have. Posting revealing photos was extremely taboo in society. I'm going to make a video discussing cosmetic procedures which were once only done by celebrities, actresses, and socialites. Silicone enhancements were almost mythical, so even if a girl was very attractive, she couldn't gain much visibility. The social bubble was much smaller, right? It was a time when men born in the 80s took advantage of that era. You know, the guy could be with beautiful women because their expectations weren't too high, and Facebook changed that a bit, right? You could reach a wide audience. There's no real limit. Well, Facebook has a friend limit, but it allows followers, so you can see their post. It was a larger world. But it's nothing like Instagram, is it? Instagram today, right? From its design to its tools and its algorithm, it's a thing designed to drive women crazy. Men too, right? Only on a smaller scale. Men are addicted to seeing ass and bikinis all the time and everything, but the environment is so toxic that a lot of guys are waking up, right? A lot of guys who never had contact with any read material or anything, they're waking up unconsciously, okay? That's another topic to talk about in another video. That men are waking up in a wholesale way on an industrial scale, right? And a lot of ordinary guys. So Instagram has created a bubble in which you have infinite, like millions of beautiful single women. There have never been so many women in Brazil as there are today, even though this beauty, the beauty of many of them, comes from cosmetic procedures. They're still beautiful, right? So, you know, because it's not too costly to look attractive. Like, everyone knows a woman's main asset in the dating market is her beauty. A woman's primary resource is beauty, while a man's is wealth. Therefore, it's much easier for an average girl to look attractive than for a man in Brazil, a country where social mobility is extremely challenging to become wealthy, right? Poor individuals are practically the only ones who will end up winning the lottery or doing something wild on the internet, am I right? So you see a lot more ordinary women transforming into beautiful and attractive individuals than you see men becoming wealthy. It doesn't take a genius to realize that this equation just doesn't add up, right? Because when that girl starts receiving numerous likes and actually she doesn't even need an overwhelming number of admirers, a bunch of guys curvalooping you, liking her pictures, all it takes is one standout guy, sometimes a bit of a freak, who might be tired of chasing the same women, to like her photo, and that's it. It doesn't take much for a woman to become an alpha widow, right? So that's today's equation. Many beautiful hot single women and not enough wealthy men. So they aim to compete with the few rich, super rich, prominent heirs in Brazil, right? In these 5.5 years, I've done social experiments, which I'll share in videos. I talk to people working with algorithms in the underworld. I estimate there are about 150 to 200 beautiful single women for every man in Brazil. This count was done with some people. We estimated it by checking Brazil's income data and concentration. The idea of 80 minus 20 in Brazil is outdated. In fact, it never existed here. 80 minus 20 is in Switzerland, Massachusetts, Belgium, the most egalitarian countries. In Brazil, at its peak, with no Instagram, strong currency, no crisis, it was maybe 90 minus 10 or 92 minus 8 in 2010. Today in Brazil, things have been at 98 bar 2, 99 bar 1 for a while, right? So what is 98 bar 2, 99 bar 1 for those unfamiliar with the 80 minus 20 issue? It means 99% of women want 1% of men, or 98% want 2% of men, right? Right? Also, the richest 1% in Brazil today starts earning 27,000 reais, right? Even though it's 10 times more than the average Brazilian, 27,000 reais is $5,000, right? That's lower middle class or middle class in the US, right? So it's really not an absurd amount of money when you compare it to what these women are actually looking for. They are seeking men who earn 200 or even 300,000 reais. It might sound crazy or exaggerated, but the truth is it's not that far off. The men understand that what I'm saying here is indeed true. This is exactly what they're witnessing on Instagram with plenty of single women out there. That they are eagerly waiting for God's long-anticipated plan, the happy ending. In short, as Saitama from Attitude Elva, whom I greatly admire, always says, they want absolutely nothing less than everything, right? So the bubble forms, right? Instagram has altered the dynamic, becoming a digital car magazine. Women posting stories, routines, workouts, yoga, meditation, They believe there's Sabrina Sato and Giselle Bonchen. That thing, it's amusing that many women from the 80s viewed this business as pastel, the business of TV fame, Kara's magazine, Ego, Globo.com. Today, all of them, especially women from the 90s, have embraced it. So, friends, to finish off this first opening video, I'm going to make several videos here explaining each specific theme. Female humor, as I said, the issue of the bubble, income poverty in Brazil, and how this affects men, how men are waking up, how desperate women are, how the forecast for 2024, 2025, which is going to be the peak of the bubble. Okay? That's what we'll discuss here on the channel, okay? How Instagram has changed dynamics and relationships, right? And how the female psyche works today, right? Big hug. See you next time.